Hello everybody, this is going to be a quick demo on using a for each loop with an index I. And so let's just sort of dig into it real quick. I built this square demo. It's going to pass these values into two different functions. We're going to build it two different ways. We just run it real quick. I've got this not yet implemented exception that's happening in the for each with I, but you can see squares via I. I built sort of the normal standard thing that does a for I loop. You can imagine doing just do for I. You're going to go through these values that we're going to pass in, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I need to produce the squares in an int array. And so the result array needs an I, the values need an I. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world to produce this thing where it like uses an I loop. I'm just going to sort of show you what's considered best practice. I'm not going to say I don't build things like this every now and then. But there's nothing wrong with, I'm going to copy this, with using an index I inside of a for loop. So this is actually considered best practice. You start with for I equals 0, and then you say for int value in values. You sort of like combo it up where you use the for each loop. The for each loop is really popular amongst the designers, language designers and everything like that. People who have strong opinions about good coding style. And so this idea, I'm going to just do this really quickly. I'm going to say now for value in values, I'm going to increment I just to handle the result array because I need the index. And I run it now. They both produce the same output, right? They're both doing the right thing. And honestly, this would not rise to the level of something that I would shoot a video for you, except for my upcoming demo, which I'm going to show you something that's going to pay off in our code. But this is considered best practice. This is kind of, I know I harp a little bit on using the right for loop in this class. This for each loop is a strong, provides strong value for readability. And so people like this. And the other thing is to just think, well, just because I am not using the for index loop, like this thing that we use all the time, it doesn't mean you can't create an extra variable and increment through it. So again, I would not go through the trouble of building this video for you if it weren't for how valuable this next one is going to play out. So this one is what's called sometimes zipping. Not the compression part, but to sort of take two separate arrays and use the value. So here I'm going to add this array with that array. And so what I expect to come out is 11, 22, and 33. So you're just going to add the two contents. And you can, I'm going to run this really quickly. We're going to build this one in a second. If I run this, you'll see that all the three different versions I have, adding two arrays together, adding an array and a list, and this one should say list and list. Let me just change that real quick. List and list. Let me run that again, because you can see it is passing two different lists in here. So I've made them here. I've created one as a list and one as an array, and we're going to build something much like this. So I'm in our bottleneck framework, kind of warm-ups and the bottleneck framework. So it is going to come in handy. So I'm going to show you how to build this in a second. This is sort of the classic sort of back to saying, well, they're two arrays. They both need an index and result needs an index. Again, you should, like best practice is to say like drive towards figuring out some way to like iterate through A. But I can see people, including myself, saying, well, all three of them need it, so I'm going to use an index loop. That's up to you. That's a sort of style situation. I'm going to rebuild this one really quickly. This one is a little bit more interesting. It matches the pattern, which we're going to have, like I said, in one of your assignments, where I have a list in one form and array in another. And so for this sort of thing, what I'll say is one way to go about it, right, is to get back into this. We're going to use that. We're going to iterate over one of them in a loop, and we're going to keep track of an index for the other one. And let me just really quickly do this. So let's make int I equals 0, and we're going to go over this loop. So let's say for int a in a list, and then I'm going to compute b as the other one. So what I can say is result sub I, right? I'm keeping track of I. Let me just put plus plus I right here before I even move on to finish out that line, equals a plus b's array sub I. I just hit Control Alt L and on Linux, and it formatted for me. There's probably Control Alt L, I think, works on the Mac also. Oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, a array, it's a list dot size here. Now, one of the things I have sort of glossed over is I check to make sure they're the same size up here and throw an exception. That's why I don't have to check any bounds up here. And so this is the same thing. Again, it's using this for, like doing the for each loop, but combining it with this index outside of it. That's much better than sort of saying, well, let's do a.alist.get here, right? We sort of, hopefully I've hammered home, like, don't do that sort of thing. Let's always use the for each loop when we can, including in this case. Now, this is, again, for the 10th time, this is going to be a pattern that you see in one of your assignments in the 2 warm-ups that go up to it. So just pay attention to that one. I put this last one in the demo just for completeness. This is the idea when you have two lists are passed in. I mean, you still need to produce this array on the outside. I kind of question how to do this. I might make 2 iterators and go over them. I chose to iterate over one in a for each loop and then grab the second one as an iterator because I need to match them all up. Called next. If they don't match up, I throw an error because that didn't happen. But that's just a bonus one in there. That one won't come up in this class as far as I know, but I threw that in there for completeness. So hopefully this demo has helped, and good luck on all of your assignments.